Hey everyone, so I'm coming to you today with the very much requested chicken soup. It's actually Cuban chicken soup that we make here for the family, and I wanted to go ahead and do that recipe for you. So let me just go down the ingredients. First of all, you're gonna need a medium, maybe like a medium-sized stock pot, or you can just use any pot that you have on hand. Just make sure it's quite large to hold all the ingredients. I've got 4 quarts of water going here, and I already put the temperature on high. Now you're going to need a whole chicken. The only part that I'm not going to add from the chicken is the chicken wings, but I went ahead and bought this yesterday at Publix, so I'm going to go ahead and add that. We usually like white meat and dark meat in our soup. I also have here 2 chicken bouillon cubes. You're going to need 2 just to give it extra flavor, and the brand that I like to use is the Knorr. You're also going to need salt. You're going to need some kind of tropical Cuban seasoning. The one that I've got here is called Badia, Sazon tropical, and that is just you can find it probably at your ethnic section of your market, wherever they have like all the Hispanic foods. But it says here that it's ideal for yellow rice, stews, and soups. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and use to add some extra flavor and color. I've got oregano here, just adding a small amount of that. I will show you when I get to that. A large onion for lots of flavor. Usually I use 4 cloves of garlic, but 2 of them were quite small, so I've got 5 here. You're gonna need a lime, but that's for the end product, that you can maybe add some lime juice to your soup. Now for the second step of the soup, once you've drained the stock, and I will show you guys that part, you're gonna need to add the vegetables, and I've got 3 medium-sized red potatoes. I've got 2 stalks of carrot, like 2 carrots. Usually I add a little more, but everyone was complaining the other day that it had too much carrots, so I'm basically the only one that likes it, so I'm just adding 2 right now. And 1 malanga root, which is just a root vegetable. You can also find it in more Hispanic markets. I know it's probably going to be hard to come by in up north maybe, but you can omit that. You don't need to add that. I don't always add it, but I always do add potatoes and carrots. So those are, oh, and you're going to need, once the soup is completely done and all the vegetables have been added and cooked in the soup, you're going to need to add the finishing touch, which is the noodles. And the one that we use here is the angel hair. It says cabello de ángel. That's the one that we like to use because it cooks really, really quickly, just within a few minutes. And I don't know, I just like the really thin noodles in the soup. And you can find that in the pasta section of your market, wherever they have all the spaghetti sauces and pastas. So yes, that's everything right there. I'm gonna go ahead and prep the chicken. I do take the skin off, otherwise the soup will be, you know, drowning in oil, and you don't want that. That's not a healthy fat, so it's okay if you leave any little remnants, but I take all the skin off of the soup because that is not good for you. So yes, I will prep everything and I will be right back. Okay, so I've got this chicken already with the skin removed. And as you can see, it's as clean as possible. I could possibly take some of the other fat off, but that doesn't bother me. So I'm gonna be adding both chicken breasts to the soup because chicken breast tends to stay pretty well put together. And what my plans are to take most of the chicken out of the soup and fry it, but I'm gonna get the chicken from one of the chicken breasts, and I'm gonna go ahead and chop it up into little pieces and leave it in the soup, because most of the time I just take all the chicken out and fry it. I'll take some of this fat off. There's already a little bit of fat on the other one. And yes, this chicken does have the bone in it. We'll take some of the fat off. Yeah, that's fine. So there you have it. Okay, so the water still hasn't come to a boil, but it's pretty hot, so I'm going to start adding in all the ingredients. First thing I'm going to add is the onions, and it's actually one large onion. I just sliced it in quarters. Well, I cut this one in half and this one in quarters, just enough so that it stays pretty whole throughout the cooking process, but I didn't just want to dump a whole onion in there. I've also got the 5 cloves of garlic right here. They're still pretty whole. I smashed them down to take the peel off, but I didn't really chop them up into tiny pieces because the whole boiling process likes to break them up anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that into the soup. Next, I'm going to add the chicken bouillon, and the flavor, so much flavor comes from these. It's ridiculous. And you don't have to use Knorr. You can use any other brand that you prefer. I know everybody usually has their favorites, but that's the one that we like to use here at home. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the oregano. I don't tend to really put oregano in a lot of my foods, but I'm just going to use that tiny little amount. I'd say that's maybe, I don't know, a 1/4 teaspoon. Just a little something, because Cuban soup does require a little bit of oregano. Some people put bay leaves in their chicken soup, but I don't tend to do that, and I didn't want to deter from my original recipe. I just wanted to do it pretty much the way that I usually do. So yeah. So now I'm gonna add the tropical seasoning. This is where all the color comes from. And usually sprinkle a little bit in. I'm gonna add that much. I'd say that's maybe a teaspoon and a half. If I want to add more later, I will. That just gives the soup a lot of color, and it's got lots of flavor in there. I know it's got paprika and garlic and what is in there? Coriander, annatto, just a lot of tropical seasonings. And then salt. Here's the salt. I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 teaspoons. So, tablespoon of salt. I will test it later. It's never good to over season your soup because you can't really, it's better to season less than to season more, because you can always add to it. But if you ever make the mistake of adding too much salt, for example, I know the potato does soak up a lot of salt, so you can maybe add extra potatoes to your soup or add extra water. But like I said, it's always better to add less to begin with, and you can add from there. So now that all the base ingredients are in, I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken. And then all you really have to do is just put the lid on and walk away. I'm going to give it a good stir. Usually I do this in a pressure cooker, but there's really no need. I mean, chicken cooks itself pretty quickly, and it's not as tough as red meat, so you don't really need any, you don't really need the pressure cooker. But if you want to speed up the process, you can do that. But I wanted to make quite a bit of soup so we can have some extra left over. So I'm going to give it a stir. And yeah, I think it smells so good already. I'm going to cover that up and let it come to a rolling boil. And I'm going to let it simmer there for about, wow, I don't know, maybe half an hour to 40 minutes, just to make sure the chicken is really cooked through. Sometimes I leave it even longer, but I'm going to let it simmer for a little while. And if you can see, I'm going to have to uncover it in a little bit, because it starts to develop a foam around the edge. And I always remove that foam before I actually put it in the pressure cooker. I know my mother-in-law always told me to do that. I guess it's not good for the pressure cooker, and since I'm always terrified of cooking that with that method, I just always do what she says. But yeah, there's a little bit of foam coming up to the surface, and it's always good to skim that off. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and cover this and give it a little while, and I will be back. Okay, so the soup finally came to a soft boil, and I'm just trying to skim off a little more of that foam. It's not too much that I've got left, so I'm gonna leave it there for about half hour. I've already got the vegetables peeled, and I'm gonna go ahead and chop those up. So yeah, catch you in a few minutes. So as the chicken soup was cooking, I remembered I forgot a very important ingredient in Cuban cooking, which is the cumin for the soup. And this is something I never forget. I don't know what's wrong with me. These things always happen. So I'm going to go ahead and get about, I don't know, quarter teaspoon of that. Not too much either, because you don't want to overpower the soup, but slight amount. And I'm going to go ahead and stir that in. And that's very, very important. You need cumin in a Cuban chicken soup. You just need it. It's a very important ingredient in there. Yep, it's already smelling different. Yeah. So I'm glad I remembered before the soup was done, because I know that I was going to taste it and it wasn't going to be complete. So I will let this keep cooking, and I'm going to go ahead and finish prepping the vegetables. Okay, so I'm going to cut up the vegetables. First thing I'm going to do is the carrots, and I'm going to cut these tips a little longer because they are thinner. So you want to get some generous pieces of carrot in there. And as I move towards the thicker part of the carrot, I will make them thinner. That looks fine. Now the potatoes, I don't know. I don't like to cut them too big because otherwise the soup will take too long to cook. So I'll pretty much get one of the medium potatoes and I cut it in half, and then I cut each half into thirds. Sometimes I wonder why I add so much potato, because we're not huge starch lovers when it comes to this type of soup. So I'm going to cut these in half. These are quite small. But I think 2 potatoes would have sufficed. But that's okay. Maybe I won't add it all. We'll see. That's fine. Now the malanga, like I mentioned in one of my previous food videos, it is a root vegetable. It is quite dense. It is much thicker and creamier, I think, than potatoes. Potatoes tend to be kind of watery in my opinion and kind of grainy, but malanga is more dense. It's like thicker and creamier. It has more of I don't know, it's just more dense and thick when you bite into it. I like it. I actually like the consistency of the malanga in the soup over the potato, but it does take potato, so I've got to add that to it. I'm going to go ahead and add pieces kind of that big because it does tend to cook down pretty quickly. And I don't want to cut them too big either. Let's see what I'm going to do here. That's fine. I'll cut this one into thirds. And that's it right there. So all the veggies are now cut up, and I'm going to show you the next step. Okay. So the chicken has pretty much given all the flavor it's going to possibly give the soup. So I'm going to go ahead and take the pieces out one by one. And I added 6 pieces of chicken to the soup. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. And what I'm going to do after I drain the chicken is fry it up. And like I said, I'm going to get one of the chicken breast, chop it up into little chunks, and add that back to the soup, just so the soup has a little bit of chicken in it. I don't normally do that all the time, but I'm kind of in the mood to have chicken soup with a little bit of bite to it. I don't tend to love all the starchy vegetables myself. The one that I prefer is the carrot. That is my absolute favorite veggie in chicken soup. So let's see, where's the other piece? There you go. So now once I've taken all this chicken out, I'm trying to get it without getting any onions. Oh, stubborn onions. Once I got the chicken out and drain it, I'm going to go ahead and season the chicken and fry it. I'll go ahead and show you that as well. But right now I'm going to go ahead and drain the soup just to get all those large chunks of veggies like the onions and garlic out, and maybe those really large pieces of seasoning. And what we're going to be left with is a beautiful chicken stock for you to add the root vegetables into. Okay, so the soup has now come to a boil all over again. So I'm going to go ahead and add the potatoes, although I think I'm going to leave a few out. It's a lot of potatoes. I don't know why I cut so much potatoes up, but here's the malanga. Go ahead and add that, and the carrots. And I'm going to go ahead and let that cook down. And once the vegetables are maybe, I don't know, 75% done, I will go ahead and add the noodles and the little pieces of chicken if I decide to do that. I think I will. So I'm going to let that cook for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. Okay, so now that the soup has been cooking for about 20 minutes, I think the vegetables are pretty much almost done. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of the chicken breast that I chopped up into tiny pieces. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the soup, but not a lot, because I don't want there to be huge chunks of chicken in every bite. I want it to be more soup than veggies or meat, if that makes sense. So, and at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and add the angel hair pasta. Like I said, you can add any pasta that you like, but this is the one that I like because since the noodles are not that big, they don't overpower the soup. They're just sort of in there, just not all over the place. So kind of just break them apart. And I usually add about 3 bunches to the soup. Just break them up like that. And I don't want to add too many because I've made the mistake of adding more than 3, and then it's more noodles than soup. And I don't want the broth to soak up all the, I don't want the noodles to soak up all the broth and be left with no soup. So yep, let me give that a quick stir. Doesn't that look good? It's a really hearty soup, but it's light at the same time. You don't have to grab a bunch of vegetables in your bowl. You can just get a little bit, and it's just really nice. It's a nice comfort food, at least for me it is. And when I cook this, I usually cook it with, I usually serve it with white rice, and we sometimes put rice in the soup. Everybody does individually if they want to. And I took the chicken out of the soup, and I basically just let it drain a little bit. All of this here is lime juice. I went ahead and added some lime juice and some fresh garlic, and I'm letting it kind of marinate so that the chicken can absorb all the flavors. And I'm going to put a little bit of salt on it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and fry it up. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So, yep, I'll show you the finished product once the soup is done. I'm going to turn it off right now, and I'm going to let the noodles just finish cooking with the heat of the soup. Since they are angel hair noodles, they should cook in just a few minutes. So there's the soup, and here's the fried chicken. I went ahead and fried the, I had added onions to that, so I went ahead and fried them after I fried the chicken, and I drizzled all of the lime juice and fresh garlic right over the chicken all over again. And we're going to be serving that with white rice, and we usually put some of the rice in the soup. So there you have it, guys. There is the Cuban chicken soup that I promised you guys the recipe for. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and share. Thanks. Take care. Bye.